today's session is going to include some highlights on what recent engagements, kind of network announcements, and also highlight some upcoming opportunities for you to continue to get involved in women in water diplomacy network engagements. We're really excited because today's session is the first in a series of online sessions we'll be convening this year with a variety of partners. In this session, we're going to be focused on our shared water visions. And to do that, we've brought some wonderful colleagues to share with us some examples of both formal and informal shared vision processes, including our partners from AMCOW and IHE Delft. And we're going to hear some wonderful voices from across our community. There's going to be a good discussion component. So be thinking about the themes and maybe some reflections that you want to add. We want to take a moment. When we saw the registration, it was abundantly clear that many new people were interested in the network and joining the session for the first time. So just to give a few words of background on the Women in Water Diplomacy Network, this community got its start in the Nile Basin in 2017 as a project at the Stockholm International Water Institute, implemented with some early partners, including IHE Delft, who is with us again here today. Over the years, the network has greatly evolved and developed in a very interesting evolution. The Central Asia Afghanistan sister branch of the network was founded in 2021. In 2022, we launched our first global strategy, and you'll be hearing a little bit about our strategic development process today. So the global strategy in 2022, it came out with a joint statement, and it was really an invitation to basin communities around the world to join us in a shared mission to accelerate gender equality in transboundary water cooperation. And the global strategy itself is, I think I have this, a path forward for women, water, peace, and security. And those are really the principles of the community. And wow, after the global strategy was launched, this call for invitations to join us really accelerated. Southern Africa came on together with the South Caucasus in 2024 and the North America branch right at the end of 2023. And the community continues to grow and develop. We recently had our first engagements in Latin America and in Western Africa as well. So next slide. Um, that evolution has really grown our community and really transformed it. So on the left, you can see what our membership community looks like today. Now, network members are those who simply give your time like you all are doing today to develop and support our engagements. Network members have joined at least 3 network engagements, including 1 in-person event in any region. And to those of you who are thinking, hey, I've met that standard, Elizabeth, we're a little bit behind on membership onboarding and are going to launch a new membership onboarding process later this year. So please be a bit patient with us as we reach out to you all. The geographical distribution of our community is also incredibly different than just a few years ago. Like I mentioned, really starting in the Nile Basin, then the Central Asia and South Caucasus, Southern Africa. It's really been growing, and that's very much based on you all getting involved and sharing your knowledge and experience and your compassion and motivation to support this very much voluntary community to continue its development. We also have a really active online LinkedIn community, and as many of you know, that is the primary place where we share upcoming events and information about our community. So I hope you're following it there as well. Yes, and the global strategy, it's based on four pillars, and this strategy was launched in 2022, and it's a 5-year strategy. So next year is a big year for us in terms of developing this new strategy, hence this session. This session, kind of cuts across our programming, but can be very much anchored in Pillar 2, peer-to-peer learning, experience exchange, opportunities for network members to share their knowledge and experience with each other. Next slide, please. The Women in Water Diplomacy Network is led by an amazing group of women and one leading man across the world. So, this Global Leadership Council came into being building on the good work of our Nile Basin Council last year. In fact, 1 year ago today, for International Women's Day, we celebrated the inauguration of our first Global Leadership Council. And this council has been driving governance, leadership, expansion. I can't tell you how indebted we all are as a community to this group of leaders really putting effort and time and expertise into continuing our community's development. So you'll be hearing from a number of our council members today, including Bogadi and Fumin and Tahani, but know that this group of people is there for you, and you're also welcome to reach out directly to council members with questions as you see fit. Next slide, please. So it's been a really active quarter 1, and we just want to quickly take a moment in this session to highlight a few things that have taken place. Maybe you were a part of them, or maybe you want to look back on the resources available to learn more about those events. This year started off really intensely with the Women in Water Diplomacy Networks convened Dakar Water Diplomacy Symposium in Dakar, Senegal, just in advance of the UN Water Conference preparatory meetings there. There is a full after action report. There are recordings of the Dakar Water Diplomacy Symposium, as well as other key sessions, all available on our resource folder or the YouTube channel. So highly recommend everyone check out the after action report. There's some good takeaways around how our community is looking to accelerate gender equality within the UN Water Conference processes. We also convened an in-person workshop in Georgia in February. I see several of the team and the group there, and that was done in partnership with the UN Women and with support from the UK, and driven by a number of people. You can find information available also on our resource folder. We had a wonderful debrief with our partners in the Stronger Together Coalition as well in February. This really enabled a lot of different partners to come together, think what came out of Dakar, how are we going to step up, how are we going to answer some of the major challenges that we're seeing in the process, and really important to build collaborative processes. You'll be hearing more about the Stronger Together Coalition across the year, but this is a coalition that the Women in Water Diplomacy Network is really proud to be a founding member of. And we're working together with women-led water networks all around the world, including I see lots of partners from our coalition here today. We also had an online seminar with focus on Central Asia and the South Caucasus, driven by OSCE with support from UNU, and that is also a type of debriefing to find some regional anchorship there. We have this webinar happening right now and a number of events happening in the coming days. So next slide, please. Happening just tomorrow, if you happen to be in New York, as I am, there will be an event marking the Commission on the Status of Women and World Water Day. It's kind of a bridging activity between those two events. There's in-person registration. I think you just come. And I believe there's online registration too, although I've heard there's a challenge with the link. That's being implemented by the UAE, is the keynote speaker in tomorrow's session. The Stronger Together Coalition, Women for Water Partnership, and Soroptimus International, which is really hard for me to say. Then we're going to continue World Water Week or World Water Day celebrations. There will be a meetup in person in Rome later this month. The QR code and registration is already up and active. So if you're planning on attending the UN water meetings in Rome or are based in Rome, please join us for an evening in Rome and getting together. Then on the 23rd, same day, but online, there will be a webinar that's being organized by MDPI, that's a water journal, in partnership with the Arizona Water Resource Research Center and the network. This session is going to feature a number of network members who are driving collaborative research projects related to water, peace and security. It's going to be really fantastic. I know that Dr. Burke and Dr. Roisin Burke and Dr. Corinne, as well as Dr. Sharon Megnall, are all contributing to this session. It's going to be fantastic. We have upcoming events that are not yet confirmed or open for registration, but you should follow the LinkedIn page to hear more details. We definitely are expecting network engagement in the Dushanbe Forum at the end of May. That is being driven by UNU and OSCE, and we're very confident that there will be some network members very actively involved there. So we're looking to have an informal network engagement meetup in Dushanbe as well. This webinar series will continue. The next one will be on June 24th. The registration will open very soon, but you can already mark your calendars for, I think it's this time block on June 24th. And as many of you know, the Dakar Water Diplomacy Symposium was just one step on our path towards really effectively engaging in the UN Water Conference. Obviously, given the state of affairs today, there's a lot of questions about it. We're not going to get into too much details on UN Water Conference planning for the end of the year in this session, but please keep an eye on our LinkedIn page for opportunities. We will be convening an in-person symposium if all goes as planned in the UAE at the end of this year. It's hard to imagine at this moment, but the world changes quickly. So this session is a really important session kicking off this global water dialogue session this year. This series will enable our community to come together recurrently over the course of the year to explore some key topics of water cooperation, as well as help our community shape our shared voice. We're really grateful for the German Development Cooperation, who has enabled these series to take place. We are implementing this in partnership with the Scott Foundation and Bridging Waters Advisory on behalf of the Women in Water Diplomacy Networks. We're piloting the live interpretation and the captioning in today's session, and we expect to add additional live interpretation languages in the coming session as well. So I really want to thank our partners in Germany for ensuring that our community has a consistent, recurrent opportunity to come together in an online framework over the course of this year. It's really essential. Next slide, please. With that, I'd like to give the floor to our partner at GIZ, Mary Namukuzi, who is joining us, I believe, from Uganda today. But Mary, you're often on the road. Mary's stepping in for her colleague just in the last moment. So really welcome, Mary, and thank you for GIZ's support of the network in this process.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, greetings from Addis. Now in Addis, not in Uganda. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar on the theme Our Shared Water Visions, organized by the Women in Water Diplomacy Network. On behalf of the Global Program on Water Security for Resilient Development of GIZ, which is funded by the German government and the European Union, I am delighted to join you and to see such a diverse and inspiring community gathered here. As we all know, water connects us all. It flows across borders, sustains ecosystems, livelihoods, and shapes the stability and prosperity of regions. Yet water is also increasingly under pressure from climate change, population growth, and competing demands. In this context, water diplomacy and cooperation around shared water resources are more important than never before. That is why the work of the Women in Water Diplomacy Network is so important and relevant. By bringing together women professionals, leaders, and change makers from across sectors and basins, the network strengthens both expertise and collaboration. It creates space for dialogue, mutual learning, and development of practical solutions for managing shared water resources in ways that are inclusive, cooperative, and forward-looking. From our perspective, supporting this network goes beyond strengthening technical capacity in transboundary water resources management to investing in leadership, building trust across borders, and ensuring that diverse perspectives, especially those of women, are meaningfully represented in water governance and diplomacy processes. Today's theme, Our Shared Water Visions, invites us to think collectively about the future we want to build. What kind of cooperation do we want to see around shared waters? How can we translate visions such as the Africa Water Vision 2063 and policy into actions? And how can networks like this one continue to support the next generation of water diplomats and leaders? I hope today's discussions will spark new ideas, deepen partnerships, and reaffirm our shared commitment to cooperative and sustainable water management. Lastly, I would like to extend our gratitude to the organizers, speakers, and all the participants from all over the world who have made time to attend this conversation. Your active engagement is what makes this network vibrant and impactful. With these few remarks, as the politicians say, I wish you an inspiring and productive session, and I look forward to the discussions ahead. If it's not too late, happy Women's Day to all the women on this call. Thank you so much. Over to you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Mary. I mean, it's so endearing to have such strong value alignment with partners. And I really want to thank Mary and the GIZ team for really maximizing the amount of cooperation. And I have to give a personal thank you to Mary in Dakar. Partners like Mary made sure that some voices were in the room, connected us with amazing women water professionals, and really like lived the values of the network. So we're really grateful to our partners. And as Mary highlighted, today's session is really important. We're kind of going back to our core. What is it about this network that we really want to bring out? How can our voice contribute to our water community? How can our community be a catalyst for accelerating gender equality? And we have a great group of people to share some thoughts with us today, including from partners at the African Ministers Council on Water and IHE Delft. As well as a number of insightful voices from across our Women in Water Diplomacy leadership community. And we're going to get started next. Oh, I believe next slide. Sorry. Yes, please, Batuma. Oh, next slide here. Yeah, there we are. So just to give a little bit more framing as we start thinking about the future, what are this shared water vision? Why now are we talking about it? Well, we had this joint statement that was developed over a considerable period of time that was really the inspiration and driving force behind our first global strategy. And this process took place of developing the vision and putting together the strategy in the years 2020 and 2021. So it was initiated by network members. I put here the picture from Kenya from 2020. At this workshop, we spent considerable amount of time walking through language and really trying to say, what can we as a community say together? This inspired the development of our first strategy and really led to a huge evolution of our community. I see that my colleagues have put there the link to the strategy. You'll find our first joint statement on pages 6 and 7 in that document. Next slide, please. So since that period when we were developing our first global strategy and the first joint statement, as you can see, our network just looked incredibly different. The first strategy period was developed with a core participant group of about 80 persons, predominantly Nile and Central Asia in their geographical background. Today, the community is much, much larger and also has this much broader geographical diversity. In addition, our diversity has brought incredible new insights, areas of expertise that intersect and further illuminate issues of women, water, peace, and security. So our areas of thematic focus have also deepened and broadened. Uh, Also goes without saying that the geopolitical enabling environment around inclusive water cooperation looks incredibly different now, just a few years later. When our first strategy was founded, Sweden at the time was a driving, feminist foreign policy approaches. Many communities have since shifted away from the approaches, while others have notably entered into driving those. And of course, cooperative multilateralism itself is being threatened in many parts of the world, as we all can see clearly today. Uh, I will say in our initial reflections, the sense is that our strategy is a strong one, but there are new elements that need to be elevated or added, or perhaps things we've shifted away. So we believe that it's more of a review than a full rehash of our strategy that is needed. To help us, we're really going to need your voices today and every other day. We'll be having a survey. You can expect that to be made public in May. That'll be helping, giving space for you all to provide some written reflections and really asking what worked in our strategy, what didn't work, what's missing, who's not at the table. And today's event and this entire series will also be an opportunity for some intersectional discussions around some of the main priorities our network wants to center in the coming years. Next slide, please. So this may involve a new network joint statement. That's something the Global Leadership Council is involved in discussing. We really want that to be a platform for leveraging the rich experience and expertise of our community, particularly at these critical moments for women, water, peace, and security. We want this process of new strategy to help strengthen and sustain our community in difficult times across diverse contexts. We want it to be a platform for helping our community collectively and effectively engage in global water processes, much like the UN Water Conference being one very important one. And we want this joint statement to inspire a new chapter in the network, including the update of our new strategy. So please get your thinking hats on today. Be thinking to share reflections in the chat. And when we open for discussion, we hope to hear from you there too. Without further ado, I'd like to hand over the floor to my dear colleague, Bogadi, who is one of the three co-chairs of the Women in Water Diplomacy Network's Global Leadership Council. She's joining us today, I believe, from Botswana. And Bogadi has served on the Global Leadership Council and has been a driving force in expanding the network across Southern Africa in partnership with many others. So, Bogadi, I welcome your inspirational words to our community this morning or this afternoon.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I hope I'm audible to everyone. Wow. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to all these wonderful women and our male champions out here. And like our partner, our development partner from GIZ, Mary did say, really water connects every community, every ecosystem, and every nation on this planet. And today, it's actually connecting this extraordinary global community of women working to shape the future for water diplomacy. It is both a privilege and a profound joy to welcome you to this first session of the 2026 Global Water Dialogue Series, themed our shared water visions. Today, we gather not simply as participants in a meeting, but as members of a growing global movement. And I think we deserve a round of applause for that. Since 2017, like Elizabeth did mention, the Women in Water Diplomacy Network has evolved from an idea into a vibrant community of practitioners, policymakers, basin leaders, researchers, and advocates, spanning from the regions, the different cultures that we have, and the different disciplines that we have. What actually unites us is not only our professional commitment to water cooperation, it is also our shared belief that inclusive leadership strengthens diplomacy, it strengthens institutions, and ultimately strengthens peace. Water has always been more than a resource. In Botswana, for instance, here, we consider water more precious even more than diamonds. It is a connector of communities, a connector of ecosystems and of nations. And when managed with wisdom and cooperation, it becomes a powerful force for stability, resilience, and shared prosperity. And over the years, like we've heard, this network has actually demonstrated something very, very powerful, that when women are supported, connected, and empowered within water diplomacy spaces, new pathways for dialogue and cooperation emerge. We have seen in basin negotiations, in policy reforms, in research collaboration, and in everyday work of practitioners who navigate complex water challenges with determination and courage. And today, however, we are not only reflecting on our journey, we are shaping our future. This dialogue, therefore, marks the beginning of an important new chapter as we collectively begin shaping the network's second global strategy. The strategy we launched in 2022, as we've heard from our support system, gave us direction, identity, and momentum. But as the world evolves, so too must our vision. Our community has grown, our partnerships have expanded, and the global water landscape has become more urgent and more interconnected than ever before. This session, therefore, invites us to ask important questions. The first one, how has our community evolved since its founding? The second, what priorities must guide the next phase of our work? And last but not least, how can we strengthen our collective impact in advancing water diplomacy across regions and generations? These are not questions for a few voices to answer. They are questions for all of us. Because the strength of this network lies not in any single institution or leader, but in the diversity of knowledge, experiences, perspectives that each of you bring to this global table. Today's dialogue, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, is not just a conversation. It is an invitation to co-create the future of this network. As we begin, we also take a moment to reflect on what we had started. That moment was captured in something that was very powerful, a collective voice, which has been mentioned earlier, a voice that continues to grow stronger. As we move forward today, let us carry that spirit with us, the spirit of collaboration, solidarity, and shared purpose, because the challenges facing water governance require not only technical solutions, but inclusive leadership, courageous dialogues, and collective vision. And that is exactly what this network represents. So I invite each one of you to engage openly, share generously, and think boldly about the future we want to build together. Today's dialogue is not only about ideas, it is about shaping the next chapter of the Women in Water Diplomacy Network and strengthening the global voice of women in water diplomacy. I look forward to the rich discussions ahead, and welcome to the 2026 Global Water Challenge Dialogue Series. Let the conversation begin. And like Sis Zoda will say, let us start to rock and roll. Thank you so much.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you so much, dear Bogati. That was so, I have a tear. That was so heartwarming. You really got us focused now. Indeed, we're going to invite our colleague from the Global Leadership Council, Fumin Furo, to facilitate interesting dialogue to get us deeply thinking about some core aspects of building that shared voice. Fumin is joining us today from Canada, and of course is formerly of Afghanistan, where she was the ED of the Kabul River Basin, and now bringing that depth of knowledge to Canada's transboundary water. Fumin, welcome, and I'll hand over to you now.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to this session titled Shared Water Vision that inspire us. In this part of the dialogue, we will explore how shared vision, both formal policy frameworks and collaborative initiative, can help guide water cooperation and strengthen water diplomacy. Across many regions today, water challenges are becoming increasingly complex and shaped by climate change, competing water demand, and challenging geopolitical dynamic. In this context, shared vision can provide an important foundation for cooperation, helping align priorities and foster dialogue among diverse actors and guide long-term collective action. Today, we will hear two complementary perspectives that illustrate how shared water vision can emerge through dialogue, collaboration, and policy process, and how they can help shape future approach to water governance and diplomacy. Our first speaker are Professor Jennifer Sehring and Alicia Shoemaker. Professor Jennifer is an associated professor of water governance and diplomacy in IHE Delft. For water education, her research focuses on water governance at local, national, and transboundary level, with particular attention to institutional arrangement, cooperation practice, and the role of the gender dynamic in water diplomacy. And she will be joined by Alicia Shoemaker, a senior program manager with over 14 years of experience in international development and humanitarian response. Her work focuses on water resource management, disaster response, and strategic program leadership. She previously served as a water resource management technical advisor at U.S. Bureau for Humanitarian Assistance and is also graduate of the Young Water Diplomat Program at IHE Delft. Together, they will share in a start from the Kathmandu Declaration on Inclusive Water Cooperation and the actionable recommendation for inclusivity and participation in water diplomacy. The floor for you.
Thank you very much, Faman, for the introduction, and hello to everyone. It's really nice to see you, to reconnect also with many of you, to see so many familiar names there. And thank you very much for the organizers and the Global Leadership Council for inviting us to share our experience here about two joint visions, if you want to call it that we have developed last year with several partners of IHE. Next slide. Please, yeah. I want to start with giving a little bit of background and introducing the Kathmandu Declaration, and then I will hand over to Alicia Shoemaker to present the policy recommendations. So the background is a cross-regional project that is funded by the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs for transformative water diplomacy that we at IHE are leading with 13 partners around the world. The aim is joint research, science policy, dialogue, and training to strengthen more inclusive and equitable water diplomacy processes. And within this process, we have, among others, 4 cross-regional early career research groups, so young scientists that are doing research together. We have an annual training program for young diplomats. This is where Alyssa participated last year. It's a Young Water Diplomats program. And we have an annual science policy dialogue event, the so-called Water and Peace Seminar that we are hosting every year. And since a few years, it used to be always in the Netherlands. Since a few years, we are rotating locations. So it's always every year in another region to also bring the specific knowledge and experience of the region into the debate. And the Young Water Diplomats is a 6-month hybrid training program targeted at young professionals of international organizations and in diplomacy who want to learn more about water. And they also participate in the Water and Peace Seminar. So next slide. Thank you. In last year, in 2025, the Water and Peace Seminar was held in Kathmandu, and it focused on questions of inclusivity regarding women and gender, but also more broader. It brought together more than 60 participants, so researchers, policymakers, NGO activists, and so forth from more than 20 countries in Kathmandu, and discussed all issues related to inclusivity, participation, not only among different stakeholders, but also human and non-human actors, decolonial views, and so on. And at the end of the workshop, they came up this idea to have a joint declaration. So it was not something we planned from the beginning, but there was at the end this wish to somehow put the spirit on paper, let's say like this, right? I mean, there were a lot of discussions and presentations in the sessions, and it was clear that there would also be some kind of more academic output, so a special issue in a journal, but to have something tangible. And to summarize the discussions. And this is why, led by the participants, so it was really not initiated by IHE as the co-organizer, but it really came from some of the participants. They said, okay, we want to have some kind of declaration that creates a common ground. It summarizes the discussions, the insights we had, and that we can also use as a kind of a reference document for future work that shows our shared understanding and joint commitment to certain principles and values. And this is how it started. Please, if we can just keep the previous slide. If we can, yes, thank you. It was led by partners from one NGO, Save the Tigris. They drafted a first text, and it was shared also with the speakers and the participants for their comments. And it was first structured session by session of the seminar, so to capture the main insights, and then it was restructured in a more logical order, let's say. So it was a collective process. And then we also thought about, okay, should we put names there at the end, right? Or should it be just a declaration by the participants? Should we ask individuals to sign with their names? We decided then to choose as a compromise the organizations and the logos. So because, it's very hard to capture all participants, and then some might not feel comfortable to sign it. You might forget some people who participated but are not in the official list of participants or something. And just say participants sounds very vague. So we had then the logo of the organizations in the document, also to show that there's a wide range of organizations, like ranging from universities to NGOs to government-related organizations. Next slide. I don't want to go into the content here. We'll share the documents in the chat so you can read it. But I think what is just important here, when it comes to the process, the aim for us was really to have this joint common ground and to show our own commitment. So we have a joint preamble that shows our shared understanding as a starting point. So basically, where do we all agree upon, right? That we all agree that inclusivity is important and fundamental for sustainable and equitable water cooperation. We also agreed that inclusivity is not only about humans, but also about non-human actors. So it's also about the rivers, the ecosystems, and so on. So these are these kind of shared starting points. And then the main text starts basically that what we commit to, and then we also call upon other actors to follow. But the first step was really for us to say that's what we commit to. And then we have 4 articles. As I said, I don't want to go into detail, but so this document is not so much a concrete recommendation. That's what then Alissa will present in the following. But the main aim was to have a joint document to us where we can refer to and where we just say, okay, we hope that also others might find it useful. And actually, it was taken up also by the Mesopotamian Water Forum that took place last year. And we have also translation into Arabic and Turkey. So they also then referred to it and took it up to, inspire their discussions. But the main aim was, to have a document among ourselves. And this document was then the basis for our group of young water diplomats to formulate something else. And with this, I hand over to Alissa to take us further.
Thank you, Professor Jennifer Bogatti, every other participants. I'm Alissa Shoemaker, currently a disaster relief program manager for Amazon and previously a water resources management technical advisor for USAID. I'm so happy to be joining you here for this inspiring session. And I also attended the Women in Water Diplomacy social gathering at World Water Week in 2024 when I worked for USAID, and it was the best event of World Water Week. It was so much fun. I'm also calling in today from Seattle on the western side of the US, on the banks of the Duwamish River, which is the traditional land past and present of the Duwamish people and the Duwamish tribe. So as Professor Jennifer said, the Kathmandu Declaration was a declaration that inspired our work of young water diplomats, who I am representing today, to work on an additional paper. So I'm here today to represent the 2025 Young Water Diplomats and our policy brief, Actionable Recommendations for Inclusivity and Participation in Water Diplomacy. This brief came about because our group of folks, 18 individuals from 14 countries, felt inspired by the Water and Peace Seminar and the action of the participants from the Water and Peace Seminar to write the Kathmandu Declaration, to write our own policy focus recommendation that had a specific focus on actionable actionable programs that policymakers and people who could be in influential roles could make in order to be more inclusive and participatory in water diplomacy. So the main message here, we had 3 messages throughout this, throughout the policy brief that we wrote. And the first message was that inclusivity is not optional. When people are left out of water decisions, whether because of their age, gender, background, or geography, it is not only equitable, and not just, it also makes work less effective because exclusion breaks trust, it weakens ownership, and it makes diplomatic solutions harder to sustain. From our brief, power sharing is no longer a radical notion, it's an imperative for real cooperation. Our second message focused on 3 specific groups: youth, women, and indigenous peoples with traditional ecological knowledge. These are not small groups. Indigenous peoples steward roughly half of the world's protected areas. Research shows water programs can be up to 7 times more effective when women are in leadership roles. I think we know that. We highlighted actionable ways that policymakers can include these groups specifically and the incredible work that these groups are doing. All 3 of these groups remain underrepresented in formal decision making, so we wanted to write this policy brief as a way to push policymakers and to advocate for additional institutionalized platforms, funding, and authority for each of these groups. Some of the examples we highlighted for youth, a good example is the Stockholm International Water Institute SIWI World Water Week notes that half of its participants are women and 1/3 of attendees are under the age of 35. The SIWI gold standard is to have every session organizer include at least 1 panelist under 35 to support the youth demographic. And we would encourage this standard to be the same at every negotiating table and in water basin associations. To focus on the work of women, an example that the policy brief gave was in the Andes region, the Mujeres Unidas en Defensa del Agua, Women United to Protect Water group, began as a self-organized campaign to clean Lake Titicaca, located on the border between Bolivia and Peru. Also, other networks that were called out in our policy brief that strengthen the participation of women are the Women in Rivers Network, the Women for Water Partnership, and the Women in Water Diplomacy Network. So we called this network out as well. To represent Indigenous peoples, we included examples from the Sir Darya Basin Project by the Youth Group on Protection and Environment, the Queensland Minjarriba Project, and the International Union for Conservation of Nature Support for Dialogue and Joint Governance in the Titicaca Basin. Our third message was about power. Many programs say they include communities, but inclusion without power is just consultation. We used Sherry Arnstein's 1969 framework called Arnstein's Ladder, which was referenced during the Water and Peace seminar to ask, how is power actually being shared? Is it with non-participation or citizen control? Our brief calls on policymakers to use this ladder from non-participation up to citizen control to self-assess their own efforts and move up the ladder away from tokenism towards models where communities have real control and real partnerships. Next slide, please. So I wanted to also include a few words on how we got here. This document came together organically. It was a kind of a reaction to the initiative of folks from the Water and Peace Seminar to create the Kathmandu Declaration, and also a commentary in what was geopolitically happening last year at this time, which is that USAID had just been dismantled. Many other international organizations were decreasing their funding for multilateralism and many other initiatives. Several people in our cohort lost their jobs during this time period, myself included. And so it felt very real during the seminar last year, this conversation on not really knowing where the international space was going. Also, DEIA and inclusion and participation was under threat. Many governments, in particular the US, but also other governments, were talking about how they might want to crawl back or pull back some of their inclusion efforts. And so we felt like it was very necessary to have an actionable document that could be used to push policymakers who are on the fence towards more inclusion and more participation, despite what was happening in the geopolitical environment. So this document came together organically. We coordinated across the Young Water Diplomat members who were interested and committed. We paired people with different backgrounds, regions, and expertise on each one of the groups to write those sections. And in this way, policy language and practical language could meet in the middle. We drew on what was discussed during the seminar and grounded it with case studies and examples from parts in the world, which I shared some of them. And as I said, we were ignited to write this because of the current geopolitical climate as well. So we met regularly over 2 to 3 months, led by 1 to 2 Youth Water Diplomat members from our group of 18 individuals from 14 countries. One of those leaders is my colleague, Alexander Reifenstuhl from the Bergdorf Foundation, a conflict transformation and mediation NGO who is on the call as well today. So you can ask him questions during the Q&A. While drafting this, we did debate a few questions. Who was our audience? How did it influence our tone? What would actually convince someone who was on the fence about inclusivity to not abandon it despite geopolitical pressure? And after some debate about this, we decided our audience was policymakers and practitioners who were uncertain, not opposed, but not convinced, especially given the climate, how they should approach their programming. So we chose language that was firm but not confrontational. That was a choice that we made as a group and that we debated. We used evidence-based language that was practical, regionally diverse, easy to use, hard to dismiss, and also tried to limit the length of our documents to a few, well, it came out to be 9 pages, but to being as practical as possible so that it would be easier for policymakers to use. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, I think that Jennifer and I wanted to compare our 2 documents and also talk about their similarities. So each one had a specific targeted audience. For the Kathmandu Declaration, this was more of a like-minded organizations. For the policy brief, this was policymakers. One was to establish common ground. One was to advocate and talk about why inclusion matters. Both outputs, though they were different in form, built a shared vision by building a product together, defining your audience, targeting their needs, intentionally including diverse voices, as diverse as possible, to work together and make stronger relationships, creating unity and purpose. So especially when times feel very challenged, like right now, around the world, this is something that we can hold on to. We have each other. We can still make an impact on others. We can use our voices. And as I got feedback from other Young Water Diplomat members, the process is part of creating a shared vision and feeling committed to a shared goal. So just finishing the brief or the declaration in and of itself, or creating a strategic vision like what the Women in Water Diplomacy Network is doing now, the process of doing that together helps create a shared group. So also the last plug is please check out the Young Water Diplomat program. The applications are in the fall. I think there's at least 1 more year. There are scholarships. You don't have to be that young if you look at me too. So Jennifer, was there anything else to include here?
No, perfect. Thank you, Alyssa. And yeah, the rest we can cover then in the discussion section.
Thank you.
Thank you both for insightful presentations. Our second speaker is Nelson Gomonda, Director of Programs at the African Minister Council of Water, MCAO. Nelson brings more than 26 years of experience in development and water governance with extensive work at the national, regional, and continental level. Prior to joining MCAO, he worked with institutions such as World Aid, the African Development Bank, and the African Union, contributing to major policy initiatives in water and sanitation across Africa. Today, he will share perspective on Africa Water Vision 2063, a continental policy framework that aims to guide Africa toward a water, secure, and resilient future with a safe sanitation for all, while strengthening economic development, cooperation, and climate resilience. Nelson, the floor for you.
Thank you for the warm introduction, and greetings to all of us. Indeed, I'm joining from Abuja, Nigeria, and I'll be presenting this on behalf of a number of institutions because it has been a joint effort of the African Union Commission at the African Ministers Council on Water out here with the Secretariat in Abuja, Nigeria. We have also had the African Bank involved, as well as the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, and of course, so many partners that are on the call today. If you come to next slide, this one is basically showing you the launch of the Africa Water Vision 2063 and policy. So you move to next slide, please. And here you'll see on the picture on the top left, we have AMCO President with his fellow counterpart from Zambia, who hosted the Pan-Africa Conference on Water, as well as the Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development at the African Union Commission. This vision, as we have mentioned, was launched at the 39th Ordinary Session of the African Union Assembly, and we had over 12 ministers and other dignitaries involved at the launch. Now, we've been asked to share mostly the process that led us to development of this particular document. So if you come to next slide, please, you'll find that the process of developing this Africa Water Vision and policy started way back in 2022 with the report that we developed outlining the steps and the roadmap for the development of the post-2025 Africa Water Vision and policy. As we entered the new millennium, we had the Africa Water Vision focusing on what Africa should be by 2025. Now that we're approaching the last milestone year in 2025, way back in 2022, we began the process of thinking what should we do after this Africa Water Vision 2025. And ministers, when they met also under the Ministers' Council on Water during their General Assembly in the Arab Republic of Egypt in 2023, they decided to ask their heads of state to designate 2026 as the year focusing on water and sanitation at the African Union level. And later on in the same year in 2023, the Specialized Technical Committee on Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy, Water and Environment adopted also the decision to designate water and sanitation as the AU theme for 2026. This, as we entered into 2024, the Executive Council, which is a council of foreign affairs ministers, basically adopted the proposal that was made by the ministers earlier on in 2023. And then as we were going to the World Water Forum number 10 in 2024 in Bali, in Indonesia, we used the opportunity to articulate Africa's common positions. And later on in the year, of course, we had the Partners Connection platform meeting under the leadership of African Union as well as AMCO, where it was agreed to definitely appoint a reference group to support the development of the Africa Water Vision and policy. And then later in the year, in 2024, we used the 9th Africa Water Week that was jointly convened with the Cairo Water Week in October in 2024 to kind of like conduct a situation analysis of where we were coming from on the African continent. So that basically was more or less like the processes way back in 2022, 2023, and of course also 2024. Coming on in 2025, next slide, please. We had also quite a lot of engagements, but as we were looking at developing the Africa Water Vision 2063 and policy, it was guided by the fact that we needed to consolidate what had been achieved at that particular time when we were also closing in on the Africa Water Vision 2025. We also wanted to draw from the lessons as well as the challenges that we have faced over the years, and then, of course, build on the unfinished business of the Africa Water Vision 2025, and of course, working towards aligning with the African Union Agenda 2063. For those of us on the call, the African Union, when they met in 2013, they decided to have a 50-year horizon in terms of the goals, looking at now where we should be as Africa by 2063. So that's what we are referring to when we say Agenda 2063. Next slide, you'll find that we have outlined here a roadmap just for us to understand that the process of developing this vision and policy really went through a rigorous process of consultation. So we have had a situation assessment that I was referring to in 2024. Then in 2025, we had consultations on the development of the vision and policy. We had the AU Heads of State Summit adopting, of course, the theme for the year 2026, which is focusing on water and sanitation, as we mentioned. Then later on, of course, in February of last year up to April, we had consultations at the sub-regional levels with the member states, looking at capturing key priorities from the regional level as well and working towards building the consensus. Then later in May, we held a third Pan-Africa Implementation and Partnership Conference on Water in Lusaka in Zambia. That brought us quite a lot of stakeholders together to begin to look at what the vision and policy would look like. Then we used the period in June and September really to consult further member states on validating some of the key priorities that were emerging from all this process as well. If you come to the next slide, you'll find that we're trying to also highlight what was it that we're looking at Pan-African 3, as I mentioned. So basically, this is where we achieved some level of consensus on the vision and policy goals. And we also had political leadership on the continent undertaking to promote the principles of valuing water and the circular sanitation economy, of course, to assure sustainable water availability and safe sanitation systems on the continent. Next slide, please. Here, we're trying just to highlight why we thought Africa needed to act as we're developing this particular vision and policy. Number one, you find that, yes, we have faced with the challenge of climate change on the continent, so erratic rains, droughts, and floods. Number two, we have had the water demand satisfaction index, of course, also increased water demands in different spaces. And then number three is the increase in the population on the continent with anticipated also increased demand of water. You can see the figures in terms of where we are today and where we should be by 2070. Number four, we have had the urban crisis, where we have had most of our urban dwellers really having no access to basic sanitation, and as a result of activities in the urban setting leading to pollution of water bodies. And then, of course, number five, the cost of inaction, which we know the impact of conflict, migration, and of course also collapse of our ecosystems, and of course slow progress in achieving the Agenda 2063. Now, if I was to come to the next slide, it's just a summary of what this Africa Vision 2063 and policy is articulating as vision statements. I want to dwell much on this in the sense that the organizers of this webinar have been very kind to share the link where we can download the Africa Vision 2063 and policy. But we just highlighted that we have 8 vision statements, and each one of these vision statements has, of course, also policy goals. But to just highlight again that vision statement number 5, looking at good governance, that's where we have most of the issues to do with gender and the social inclusion also included in this particular new vision and policy. Coming to the next slide, we can say that we are grouping these vision statements into 4 different pillars. The first pillar is looking at the economy and society. So here is where we would have most of the other issues related to universal access to wash. And then the second pillar is looking at issues of diplomacy, peace, and security. And the one key issue here is that we're looking at the basins as shared natural assets for enhancing regional integration, peace, social inclusion, and of course also political stability. The third pillar is looking at aspects of climate resilience. And then the fourth one, which cuts across all the 3, is really focusing on issues of innovation, capacity, and information. Going to the next slide, please. You find that going forward in terms of implementation arrangements, if you look at the new Africa Vision 2063 and policy, you find that we have specific outcomes and targets expected between now and 2033. Here, we would like to see more investment-led regional integration, Beyond that, we would like to look at the decade between 2033 and 2043, looking at systematic transformation. And of course, we hope to consolidate what we would have achieved in the years beyond that as well. Next slide. Going forward, we are developing the first implementation plan, and this is based on the decisions of the ministers that was made in September, as well as the ministers meeting under the African Union, requesting the African Union Commission, the African Union Bank, African Facility, and all the other partners to develop the first implementation plan looking at the period 2026 to 2033. And then we have also decided to set up some kind of a task force, a task team with a coordinator to facilitate the engagement of all stakeholders on the continent towards the formulation of the first implementation plan. The next slide is more or less like as I conclude, sharing about more information to do with how we would like to develop this first implementation plan. So you can see that we are, yes, looking at maybe the transformational drivers in the few years to come, but more importantly, we'd like to also develop flagship initiatives. Here, we'd like to have maybe 2 up to 3 high-impact initiatives under each of the 4 pillars that I highlighted earlier on, and then we can develop further our monitoring and reporting frameworks. We also hope to work with all the partners, basically, in terms of the implementation of the new vision and the policy. The next slide is more or less like really a summary of what, I think I missed out something, but just to highlight that we would be definitely working with all the stakeholders and partners on the continent, including international non-government organizations, the UN family, and all the financing institutions towards the implementation of the new vision and the policy. I should thank you so much. If anything, as we have shared, we have the vision document that is accessible both on the Africa Ministers Council on Water website as well as the African Union. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nelson, for insight presentation. I would now like to open the floor for discussion and hear reflection from all of you. And we have one question from Fuad Al-Faraj. How women would shape the future of shared water diplomacy at the time when the influence of unilateral human-induced intervention of the upstream countries outweighed the influence of international water law and principle to reach a fair agreement between upstream and downstream countries. Example, Tigris-Euphrates River basin shared between Turkey, Iran, Syria, and Iraq. Please, if the speaker have any answer, just turn on the mic.
Maybe I can start if no one else jumps in, but I think it's probably more a question to the network than to the speakers, because you are the Women in Water Diplomacy Network. So the question is, yeah, I mean, if women, how I read the question, right? If women shape the future, would they do something different? Are women per se better than men? Or is it maybe just, something about the roles, the socialization that women have that they can bring into these processes? So I will not provide an answer to this question, because I think your network and the discussions you have, I mean, you are probably the best to provide an answer. And I think one important step is to build these informal networks, because what we see, I mean, how does this unilateral action happen, or these conflicts very often because networks are cut or interests prevail over a more relational approach. And what you are fostering with this network is to have a more relational approach to foster these ties and networks that then, persist also when there are tensions and conflicts. So to build up this kind of community idea globally, but also within specific basins. And I think that's the best way to mitigate conflicts. But yeah, I think I would just bring this question to the whole network and to all the ideas and experiences that are there.
Thank you, Jennifer. And I think this question maybe belongs to Nelson. From Butsalo Tamuko, sorry if I pronounced the wrong or incorrect name. I agree with the long-term planning in the term of the Africa Vision 2036 and our Agenda 2036, seeing this being long to achieve what is practically doing in the interim, especially for the rural women and the girl facing challenges relating to access to quality sanitation services. Nelson, please.
Thank you again, and I think you'd have said again that this is a question for all of us, but to just highlight the fact that definitely as we're looking forward, for us, one key issue that we have noted and where we would like to put more emphasis basically is working towards removing entrenched barriers that really prevent the participation of women, and in some cases also some segments of the society in decision making. So we'd like to ensure that we work towards embedding equity in core water governance frameworks and also in service delivery systems. That's quite important in the sense that if we can do that, then we would ensure that we are generating, first of all, decisions at the strategic level, policies that govern the activities at various levels as well, and including even bylaws to make sure that they are responding especially to the needs of the people as well. And for us, we believe that we have to also draw on maybe opportunities related to social cohesion at society level, community level, and then making sure that we also are promoting the values of shared stewardship. And of course, as I mentioned, water governance anchored in cultural values and of course, other aspects to do with resilience and justice. These are things that we would like to see more as we implement the activities in the new vision and policy as well. But we are standing ready to learn from others as well in terms of where we have made progress. And we have had to have, maybe women leaders and all the other groups that are marginalized in decision-making processes to make sure that they are highlighted and they take a driver's seat. That's something that we want to see, but it means that we have to really remove the entrenched barriers that prevent the participation of some groups in decision-making in our societies. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nelson. Also, if you have anything else to add to the first question, please share your idea and your answer.
Yes, thank you, Foman. I wanted to add to Farat's question. So some of the research from our paper, I put it in the chat as well, but water programs are up to 7 times more effective when women are in leadership roles. And I know also that in terms of negotiation, I think it was one of the papers that we read through our program, like Alex, maybe you can confirm if this is correct, but I mean, women are often the ones who are brokering these deals, especially in local communities where women are the ones who are the holders of so many things. One of them being often relationships between groups of different interests, and we're the ones who are really bridging the gap. And so I do truly believe that women will be the ones who are the power brokers to help create more power shifting deals in the future. I'm not sure what that will look like, but what the statistics show is that when women are in leadership, the programs are more effective. So we can take that as an encouragement across this network to really step into those spaces when you have the opportunity, and as we keep working towards more power shifting in the future. Alex, did you have anything to add there?
No, I think it's very, I think the data is quite clear that exactly that negotiations involving women are a lot more sustainable. The reasons why I think are diverse, but I think the data is quite clear on that.
Thank you, Alex. Zotva, please turn on your mic, and if you have any thoughts or reflection.
Were you saying me?
Yes, Zotva. Hello.
Oh, okay. I think for us as a network, where we started in the Nile Basin, it was very interesting. And that is a practical example of what it was like when we all started. these were nations that did not, know each other, and women who did not know each other. But, the tension was always there. But most importantly, as soon as we all came together and forged the relationships, you will never, imagine how things are really working, where women are, collaborating. Women are always talking to each other, it's so easy for people to be calling each other from Ethiopia, Egypt and all that. But also the most important thing is about also ensuring that when you work together, you have a common purpose as to what it is that we need to achieve. And it's very sustainable. Where women lead, where I've been with all the men that I worked with, ego is number one. Whereas with women, it's not about ego. It's about ensuring that we achieve our objectives. And even especially when you negotiate with men and you are the only woman, in this big transboundary infrastructure project, it's very, very important that you have your head and you know what it is that we're working on, but also ensuring that, I know that my participation and other women's participation make sure that we have a sustainable, agreement, and that the agreement was reached on time. Thank you.
Thank you, Zadwa. We have a question on the chat from Maria Laura. And what does tangible cooperation look like? Donors often ask for tangible deliverables beyond protocol. What do these deliverables typically include, and how can we ensure that they are developed in an inclusive way? Jennifer, Alicia, Nelson, if you have anything to add, please.
Maybe I can jump in and say that maybe some of the reflections that I've said, I have a feeling that is what Pera Ramoy would like to relate with as well. So if you don't mind, let me yield it to my my kind of like mentor Pera to just jump in.
Thank you. And from Emira, we have questions. I would like to address my question to Dr. Jennifer and Alicia. In many regions, including Central Asia, there are numerous initiatives on water, from community projects to high-level diplomatic process, but they often remain fragmented, which is also was highlighted in the youth water strategy. What best practice have you observed for creating a stronger coordination between these stakeholders? And do you see youth networks playing a role as a connector between local communities and policy processes?
I can jump in there, and I put part of my answer in the chat, but I love this question, Amira, and I just want to say thank you so much for your work in this area. And something that we talk about in our policy brief is this idea around energy for the water sector, like the importance of protecting a shared future. And so I think there's really something to be said about the place that youth can have in forming relationships across organizations through networks like the Women in Water Diplomacy Network or like the Young Water Diplomats Program. We had 18 individuals representing 18 different organizations that are all touching water in 14 different countries. So by being a part of those networks, it means that you're creating a shared vision and a shared voice, and it helps move all of our organizations together towards shared goals. So without doing that work together, creating these briefs and this strategic vision, like what the Women in Water Diplomacy Network is gearing up to do, it's hard to kind of move everybody in one direction. And I think that youth are really going to be the ones to motivate our entire sector in this direction. So I'd encourage anyone who's a part of these groups, like Amira, you especially, or all of your colleagues, to be as involved as possible in these processes, myself as well, so that we can kind of have a stake in what the vision looks like moving forward and what that shared language is. I think there's lots of opportunity to be involved, particularly in networks like this, but it does take some researching it and some willingness to raise a hand and include our opinions, So that's my take on that question. And I'd love to hear from you too.
Thank Elisa. We have two people that raised the hand. Omi, you first, and after that, Farah, please turn on the mic and ask the question or share your thought.
Merci beaucoup. Je suis Oumi Tall, depuis le Sénégal. Je suis à la CNO, chef de département recherche innovation à la CNO. Donc, je voulais partager avec vous une expérience quand même qui permettra quand même de booster la représentativité des femmes dans le secteur de l'eau et de l'assainissement. Le constat qui a été fait, c'est que nous avons constaté qu'il y a une faible représentation des femmes dans les métiers techniques et scientifiques de l'eau. Et ce que nous avons fait, nous, en tant qu'entreprise du secteur de l'eau et de l'assainissement du Sénégal, nous avons collaboré avec le réseau des professionnels de l'eau et de l'assainissement, le RFPAS, avec sa présidente en tête. Nous sommes allés vers les universités sénégalaises, participer à des journées d'intégration de jeunes ingénieurs pour les sensibiliser sur les différents métiers qui existent et que les femmes occupent présentement dans notre entreprise et qui peut leur permettre de faire valoir à des postes de responsabilité. Donc, ça a été très apprécié par les nouveaux ingénieurs et ça leur permet vraiment, dès le départ, de s'orienter vers les métiers scientifiques et techniques de l'eau. Parce que dans nos secteurs, il y a des femmes, mais les femmes ne sont pas bien représentées dans ces métiers scientifiques. Pour aspirer à des postes de responsabilité, pourquoi pas aspirer aussi à une participation au comité de direction de nos entreprises. Donc, c'est cette expérience que je voulais vraiment partager avec vous, qu'on a vécu et qui commence à porter ses fruits, parce qu'après chaque présentation, les filles viennent vers nous pour se renseigner davantage sur les matières de base, sur les profils de ces femmes-là. Donc, c'est ça que je voulais partager en vous remerciant de votre attention. Merci beaucoup. Il faut saluer aussi les directeurs généraux qui sont très, très conscients de comment booster la productivité des femmes dans nos entreprises. Nous animons des ateliers avec ces femmes, n'est-ce pas, pour leur poser des questions sur quelles sont les contraintes qu'elles ont et à la fin, mettre en place des plans d'action que nous proposons à nos directeurs généraux qui nous laissent les portes ouvertes pour discuter ensemble. Tous ensemble, nous allons pouvoir booster la productivité de ces femmes et aspirer à des instances de décision. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Omi. Farah, please, just short, because we have behind the time, the floor for you.
Thank you very much, facilitator and colleagues, and thank you, colleagues who make presentations which are quite informative as well as inspiring. I think we have everything probably on the table, on the ground. What is left is implementation and action. For me, I think coming from a river basin organization where the tire hits the tarmac in terms of leadership and governance and policy, especially in terms of diplomacy, we need to start encouraging more youth to get involved, both in terms of academic interest in the water sector and the scientific nature of things, because yes, our network is increasing, and yes, we have some of us as champions, but we have to have a population out there that can be interested to take action and be part of this process. While we encourage, sometimes you find you are faced with a situation where there are fewer women, as well as, although we need to have a few or more of them to do the actual action. And I've had an experience where I've worked with a number of ladies who are in leadership, and I can confirm the fact that with their presence in discussions and negotiations, sometimes things that would have otherwise gone out of control do become much easier to deal with because of just the nature of them being there. But also the level of expertise and knowledge of things is also available. So I would encourage that as a network, we also work towards ensuring that as our youth are getting into the fora of water, there's also a dedicated effort to interest them to train in this kind of sciences so they can be involved in this law, water policy, water governance, and all those things, so that we have the population of more women participating. Thank you.
Thank you, Farah. I think we have to move to the last session. Elizabeth.
Wow. Well, time was always too short. That's never enough. We could probably talk for another hour, but we also know you are all very busy people. We hope we've planted some seeds in your mind. We're going to take a group screenshot now, but please don't leave because we have a concluding reflection from a council member after this screenshot. Please keep an eye out for the recording, the after action report, and other resources related to this session on our LinkedIn page and also in our resource library. After the concluding reflections, we'll also be sharing in the chat and a QR code on the slide, the session evaluation link. Please, really 2-3 minutes means a lot to us, and now is the best time to capture some of those raw ideas coming out of the session. We know this is just a start in a process of thinking about this, but wow, I was really inspired by some of the important interventions. So I'll let my colleague take a few screenshots. I think Batima and Aline, can you tell us when we're good? So please turn your cameras on if you'd like to have your face in the screenshot. We typically do like a collage and a thank you to you all for giving us your generous time as part of today's session. Somebody from the Scott team, just give us the all clear. Otherwise, we'll just keep our big smiles.
Good to go. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Okay, wonderful. And with that, I just want to, from me, thanking you all for taking time to join. And dear Tahani, I would love if you could help wrap us up as a group today. Oh, wait, please, Tahani, there you are. Okay, and we'll pin Tahani so that we can see her, and the evaluation link we'll put also in the chat. So Tahani, bring us home.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, it has been a real privilege to offer this closing reflection of the first session of the Women in Water Diplomacy Network 2026 Water Dialogue Series, introducing such a rich and inspiring exchange of ideas. Today's dialogue reminds us why this network was created in the first place. It was to build a community of women leaders who are shaping the future of water diplomacy across regions, disciplines, and generations. We began by visiting Elizabeth, revisiting with Elizabeth the rising tide of the network's joint statement that reminds us that when women's leadership rises in the water governance, the entire community benefits. This message resonates even more strongly as this session also marks the International Women's Day, a moment to celebrate the achievements of women and to reaffirm our commitment to strengthen women's leadership in the water cooperation. Our discussions today highlighted two important examples of shared water visions that can guide our collective journey forward. My dear friends, FUMAN introduced Professor Jennifer Schering and Dr. Alisa Schumacher, which introduced the Kathmandu Declaration on Inclusive Water Cooperation, which emphasizes that water diplomacy must be inclusive by design and is not symbolic. Real change requires distributing power. It calls for meaningful participation of women, youth, and diverse stakeholders and indigenous people in shaping water decisions, reminding us that cooperation is built not only through agreements, but also through trust, dialogue, and shared understanding, and shedding light on the Young Water Diplomats program. Equally important, the presentation of Africa Water Vision 2063, presented by Mr. Nelson Gamonda, led by the African Ministers' Council on Water, provides a powerful continental roadmap towards prosperity, peace, and resilience through water security aligned with Africa Agenda 2063. Having had the honor of contributing to Africa's water policy process as a chair of the AMCAO's Technical Advisory Committee, I have witnessed how regional cooperation can transform shared water challenges like climate change, urban crisis, increasing demands into opportunities for collective development based on 4 pillars: economy and society, diplomacy, stability, climate resilience, building capacity, and developing the first implementation plan and its priority. Our discussion leads us to tackle many aspects and crucial questions on the role that women can play in contributing to the future of water diplomacy, the Africa's challenges on water and sanitation, and the women's share in benefiting and having a leading role in the sector. Going through very encouraging comments confirming from scientific analysis that when women are in the leadership, the programs are more effective. Zodwa also intervened as usual, ensuring that priority with women is achieving objectives and sustainability, not on ego. And Senegal shared with us their experience in raising awareness on the weak representation in technical and scientific water positions. Mr. Ferra Rameoli, his intervention invited the community to encourage women and youth towards being involved in the water governance and policy. From my own experience, working as transboundary water cooperation in the Nile Basin and across Africa and the Middle East, I have learned that water diplomacy is ultimately about building bridges between countries and between communities, and also between generations of leaders. Initiatives like this global network that was initially born in the heart of Africa, especially in the Nile Basin, the MENA Water Diplomats Initiative as well, aiming to build the capacity of women water diplomats in the MENA region, the Young Water Diplomats Program, and all different programs and initiatives worldwide that invest in people, especially women and young professionals, are one of the most powerful tools that we have for strengthening cooperation in shared basins. These efforts are closely aligned with the Global Development Agenda, achieving Sustainable Development Goal 5 and 6 specifically. This connection was strongly reaffirmed during the 2023 United Nations Water Conference, which mobilized global commitments through our Global Water Action Agenda. Today's session is therefore more than exchange of ideas. It is part of shaping the Women Water Diplomacy Network collective vision and strategic engagement for the years ahead. As a global community spanning in Nile Basin, in Central Africa, in Central Asia, Afghanistan, South Africa, North America, the South Caucasus, and beyond, we have a unique opportunity to demonstrate how inclusive water diplomacy can contribute to peace, resilience, and sustainable development. And as I look at this remarkable community, I can conclude that water connects us, but cooperation sustains us, and cooperation becomes stronger when women are not only present at the table, but helping to lead the conversation. Finally, I'd like to sincerely thank all the network members and supporters, or our participants, and especially Elizabeth Sogol and Dr. Zodwa, Bogadi, our co-chair of the Network's Leadership Council, with her encouraging and inspiring words, shaping to strengthen the women in water diplomacy. Our supporters, SIWI, GIZ, Finland, SCAT Foundation, and all institutions that have supported the journey of the network from the start in the Nile until now. Let's continue to strengthen this network, support the next generation of water diplomats, and transform our shared vision into shared action. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tahani, and to everyone for joining. We'll really big round of applause to you all. And what a best way to spend International Women's Day than with all of your beautiful minds. Thank you all, and we'll see you again very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Tahani, that was great.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Zadwa, I miss you.